Last year I started a garden. I had some garden beds built and winter just ended and I decided, since I paid off my last credit card, I was going to transform my entire front yard. So the first thing I had to do was de-winterize it, which I might have done a little bit early. I got all the dead leaves and all the dead plants out. I removed the trellis from the garden beds. I dumped, the soil was still good, so I kept a lot of it. I saved all my pine cones because I'm going to use them as decoration in the winter. And there were so many dead leaves. And again, I should have waited. I did this like toward the end of February. And you're supposed to leave it dormant for a while, which wasn't very eco-friendly of me, but I was just so eager to get started on this whole space. I did a lot of research about which plants I wanted and what I wanted to put in my garden and which areas of my yard get the most shade, because I made a lot of mistakes last year during gardening season and I wanted to do a better job. So I moved the large planters to an area that gets more sun. And the first thing I planted was this decorative sedge. It was on sale, so I figured why not? And I know I planted it a little early in the season, but it's fairly hardy and does fine. And I chose this kind of plain grassy sedge because I have perennials that have a lot of flowers and I didn't want something flowery distracting from the beautiful things I plant along my walkway. The next project I worked on was to add some edgers around all of my garden beds because I want to plant flowers and marigolds. I put produce and vegetables and different things inside the garden beds, and I was told that if you have marigolds around the sides, that pests will bother them instead of your produce. So I had all this edging in the backyard and I wasn't using it. So I thought this would be perfect, and I had almost the perfect amount. I only had a little bit left over, so I put the edging around all 3 of my garden beds, laid down some newspaper to cover up weeds, and then filled the inside with soil. And I couldn't plant any flowers yet because it was basically still winter. And then just as a treat, I bought myself this adorable bird bath because I want a bird bath and a little seating area over here in the shady part of my yard. Then around March, I decided to add some large plants. I wanted arborvitae because it's fairly hardy and it grows really tall. I think I planted it a little too close to my front porch, but that's okay. It should grow to be about 15 feet tall, which I'm hoping will offer a little bit of privacy here on my front porch. Then came the fun task of removing all of this mulch. So there was a bunch of mulch, and originally I liked it, but then the cats started using it as a litter box and I had to constantly clean it out and it just looked real worn and dated. So I had to go through and shovel all of it out and put it into boxes, and I ended up saving some of the boxes in case I have future projects. But I put an ad on Facebook for someone to come take the mulch and they did, so I ended up getting rid of a lot of it that way. In the front of my house, I planted 2 boxwoods because they're also hardy and I thought they were pretty, and I added several terracotta plants which I plan on using for an herb garden. To replace the mulch, I bought these river pebbles, and when I first put them out they were kind of dusty, but after a good rain I thought it looked absolutely beautiful, and hopefully the cats won't use these rocks as a litter box. I'm hoping they're a little bit too big, but it's perfect. It's exactly what I wanted around my front porch. One of the most fun projects was collecting a bunch of moss and putting it in the shaded part of my front yard. So I did this by laying down layers of cardboard, and then I had all this thick kind of clay-like soil that I packed in tightly on top of the cardboard, and then I watered it down real good because moss wants a firm surface, not crumbly, loose soil. So I did this in increments, little by little, as I collected the moss, and then I laid the moss down in kind of a pattern, kind of a little patchwork pattern. So my goal is to replace all of the grass in my front yard. I'm gonna do moss on the shady part, and I'm gonna try to replace the other side with wild strawberry, which is a ground cover that produces berries. I thought about creeping thyme or maybe phlox, but since so much of my yard is shaded, I decided to go with moss on one side and wild strawberry on the sunnier side. And just for fun, I found all these seeds in my boyfriend's garage, but they had been in there for like 10 years, so I doubt much will come of them, but I decided to go ahead and toss them around my yard anyways, because hey, you never know. So on the other side of my front porch, I decided to add 2 more arborvitae and 2 more boxwoods to give the whole landscaping a little bit of symmetry. I had this enormous stone that was really hard to move around, but I think I got it somewhat centered. And then I did a bunch of research about the best kind of plants to go in a shaded area that will also produce flowers, and I ended up buying some Helleborus, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and I was told that it probably won't sprout this year, but hopefully I'll get to see some flowers next year. And I thought about putting a fountain in this area, but honestly it was out of my price range, so I ended up just setting a couple of planters around. Meanwhile, my perennials from last year were coming in nicely. I was surprised how early these Asiatic lilies popped up, but I was excited to see them. And some of my other perennials seem to be coming back. I hope these are the black-eyed Susans that I planted, but I don't know for sure. So I ended up adding some tulips. They bloomed and looked really pretty for a very short time, and hopefully we'll see them again next season. And the last of the big plants I got is this beautiful yellow rosebush and 2 viburnum to go on either side of my front porch. Did I mention moss apparently likes buttermilk? So to try to give it a little boost, I poured some buttermilk in between the cracks. Hopefully it all fills in this area. After finishing planting everything on the other side of my front porch, it was time to add all the decorative rocks again. They were so heavy, but it was definitely worth it because it looks a lot better than the mulch. And if I had had them delivered, it probably would have been cheaper, but honestly, I didn't want to mess with it. It was easier just to go buy a bunch of bags and have my wonderful boyfriend help me fill in all the gaps. And after that, I was feeling pretty happy. Everything was coming along nicely. There's my viburnum and my yellow rose. I had some planters, my Helleborus, and it's looking really good. It was coming along very well, but I am not done yet, because I want to replace the grass with wild strawberry, and these are the wild strawberry plants. I cut out the bottom of some planters and put it around them to kind of keep them safe, and hopefully they will spread under the ground and slowly start to pop up. And my goal is to just let them go and slowly replace all of the grass on this sunnier side of my yard. And then on the shady area, it's going to be all moss. Now, because I'm limited on space, I decided to dig a trench in the easement, which I know is a little bit risky because all of that could get torn up. But I'm gonna plant sunflowers, corn, and beans and squash and cucumbers in the easement, and hopefully the squash and cucumbers will spread out and cover the grass so I don't have to mow quite so much. And I'm hoping the beans and corn will grow really tall and provide some privacy in front of my house. I basically dug a trench all the way through, which was challenging because of the grass, and then filled it with soil. Now, I wanted a seating area, and I was thinking about a little table and chair set, but then I thought maybe a stone bench would look nicer to go with my little bird bath and stepping stones. Also, here's me getting my cat out of my garden beds. This is the little seating bench that I got, and it's not stone because all the stone ones were too expensive. And from a distance it looks okay, but it's like a plastic material, and up close I think it looks like a Fisher-Price toy. I don't know. What do you guys think? I wanted it to match my stepping stones and my bird bath. Hopefully it'll be okay. And just look at these before and after shots. I think my front yard looks so good. I'm so happy with the progress. But wait, there's more. The last thing I did, the cherry on top, was to buy some beautiful solar lights, and they're just perfect. So I got these solar lights from Home Depot. They were like 40 bucks for a box of 4, and I ended up buying 3 boxes. After letting them charge, this is what they look like with the white lighting. It's so pretty. And there's several different settings. Like there's one setting where they just change periodically to several different colors, and I thought it was so cool. And then there's also a setting where it's this beautiful blue color. So I'm thinking I can do different things. I can do red and green around Christmas time. I can change it for different types of parties. And one of my favorite settings is this super cool, like flickering flame that I'm definitely gonna use around Halloween. I am so happy with the way my front yard has turned out. This has been such a treat, and here's hoping I get a lot of produce and that my garden thrives this season. Thanks for watching.